Welcome to my nuclear bomb shelter. Come on in. I find it fascinating that Sweden, as a neutral country that hasn't participated in any wars for hundreds of years, has an astonishing infrastructure of nuclear bomb shelters. And there's one down here right underneath the apartment where I live. So let's go take a look and I'll tell you all about the story of these. So that's the sign you need to look out for if you're ever in need of a air raid bomb shelter. Skyddsrum, that's the equivalent in Swedish. Oh, quite a bit of weight. Okay, before we go in, take a look at the door here first. So some parts of it are currently missing, but the weight and thickness of this blast door is absolutely incredible. Just check out the hinges there we have over there. And actually the locking mechanism that would have gone through there, they seem to have removed, but you can see the door jamb here where the big bolts would have gone in. So this is what it looks like in our personal nuclear bomb shelter. Yes, these do offer some protection against nuclear bomb attack as well. Sorry for the audio obviously here, but this has been converted to a cycle room, a cycle garage. But in the case of any emergency situation or raised level of alert, then this would have to be completely cleared out within 48 hours and converted back to its original purpose as a bomb shelter. Over here, you can see my bicycles, but this room here is locked. There it says the Skyddsrum's utrustning. This is where the gas masks and various supplies would need to be stored. So in here then, when it's converted, it's actually got some special ventilation systems that seem to be mostly deactivated, but there is special ventilation here to protect against biological attacks, gas attacks, that kind of thing. But this would all need to be put back into use. There'd need to be a water supply down here as well. I think I saw something. Not sure, more strange ventilation over there as well. But yeah, this particular shelter is intended for about 100 people. And each individual is entitled to 0.8 square meters of space for themselves. I'll tell you later what you're allowed to bring into the bomb shelter in case there is an emergency situation. Let's take a look over here. Actually, this one I don't have access to, but over here we can see another bomb shelter. Let me show you. If we come out here, you can see the massive door here on the other side. If you come through, Eddie. This again. If we close this door first, perhaps. Look at that, massive hinges again. Absolutely incredible. The cost of installing these must have been phenomenal. And this particular house is from the 50s, but all houses built in Sweden, or many of the houses built in Sweden between the 50s and I think the last one was in the year 2000, often had these nuclear bunkers. Here's another door here. Not sure. This one probably closes. This one probably closes over here. Again, they've removed the handles from this particular one. But again, just look at this incredible stuff. So I said at the beginning, there's an amazing infrastructure of these shelters in Sweden. So let's go on a quick walk around the neighborhood and see how many we can find. I think there are actually dozens, if not hundreds, in the near area. Let's see how many we can get access to. It's actually a couple of days later, but I wanted to interrupt the video because I've just met Ingvar, who's going to show us some of the restricted areas in here.
Toaletter.
Yeah, toaletter.
Toaletter.
Det är toaletten. Det är toaletten. Helt otroligt. De här måste vara gamla nu.
Ja, det är gamla det.
Stått här i
många år.
Många år. Men det var intressant med de här tjocka fönstren. Det här är stål, eller?
Ja. Men om det blir krig så stänger vi. Stänger vi med balk.
Ja.
Ja.
Ja, det är...
Järn.
Järn som går hela vägen ner till golvet. Och håller upp taket.
Extra. Sen hade du här... Det är krig.
Ja, det står. Ah. Okay.
Fläkt.
Yes.
Och kaffekoppar och allt.
Ja, ja.
Finns allting.
Ja, det finns allting.
Finns så.
Ja, tack så mycket.
Tack ska du ha.
I find another shelter. Oi. Come and take a look. So again, we can see the sign as we go down. If you follow after me. There again is the sign. It's a little bit dark, but here you can see one. Oh, okay. Now we can't get in all the way here, but another of these massive blast doors. Here you can see the actual locking mechanism there as well. So in case there was any bomb threat, what would happen is the air raid sirens go off. I'll tell you more about those later because that's also quite interesting. And then you're supposed to head to the nearest air raid shelter. And in advance you're supposed to check which is the nearest to you. You don't have to go to the one that's below your house. You can go to anyone in the neighbourhood, or perhaps if you're working, you go to one that's close to where your office are. And Eddie tells me that even his school has a number of huge air raid shelters underneath as well. So let's go over here. Okay, we found another one. Unfortunately, we can't get access to this one, so we would be screwed if North Korea did decide to send missiles our way. This is a old people's home for the pensioners. They also have their own Skyddsrum. I wonder if we can go in, take a little look. So yeah, this is where the room is. It's behind here. We can't get in. This has been converted to just like a storage area. And many of these bunkers have been converted for use as other things. We saw the cycle garage in our own building. Some of these have been converted to function rooms for parties and so on. And even some of the bigger bunkers in Stockholm are now converted to nightclubs. But remember, in case there is any alert or state of readiness, any kind of incident or threat, then these need to be converted back to their original use within 48 hours. And that is the law. And it's the responsibility of the owner of the building to do that conversion. So as Eddie pointed out, quite rightly I think, we're on the south coast of Sweden here, which was more of a military zone as well during the Cold War, which is when all of these bunkers were constructed. Yes, I forgot to say that. The threat that we're trying to protect against here is the potential invasion by the Soviet Union during the Cold War. Finland is not too far away, and that has been invaded by the Russians before. So yeah, that's what we're trying to protect against here. There's one there, Skyddsrum. But that one seems to be locked as well. That's probably also converted now to a cycle storage facility. So I've done a little bit of research and checked some of the government websites here, and I've discovered that there are 65,000 of these bomb shelters, and there are space for 7 million citizens in these 65,000 shelters. And that's not enough for the whole population of Sweden, which I think is about 9 or 10 million these days. The shelters are concentrated in the urban areas. And a lot of the population. Okay, Eddie confirms it's 10 million people. And a lot of those are living in rural areas, of course, and they might have their own shelters, or perhaps it wouldn't even be necessary because those rural areas are not necessarily a target anyway. And another thing to note is that military personnel are definitely not allowed to use these shelters. For one thing, they have their own military shelters, and for the other thing, you obviously don't want to mix up the civilian and the military population. These shelters are the responsibility of a mysterious Swedish government agency called the Beredskapsmyndighet, I think. Yes, that's the State of Readiness Agency, I suppose that would translate to. And they have maps where you can see where your closest shelter is. And I also read a bit of advice about what happens when you have to go down to a shelter. So I'll tell you what the procedure is right now. So here's another one that we don't have access to, so let's wander on a little bit more and I'll tell you what you're supposed to take with you. So you're just supposed to collect up a few of your personal possessions, but the most important thing is you're not allowed to take much, of course. Remember, you've only got 0.8 squared meters that you're supposed to occupy. You cannot take a chair with you because that would be unpopular with the residents of the shelter, I suppose. It would take up too much space. But you're supposed to bring your own food. You're supposed to bring your own water. And of course, most important, you're supposed to bring your own toilet paper. How would we manage without that? And they also recommend bringing some kind of wind up radio so that you won't need batteries. That sounds a little bit old school. I imagine many people these days would bring their Switch or their iPhone with them if they had to be in the shelter for a few days. And one other thing, you're sadly not allowed to bring your pets. So I'm sorry, but you'll have to leave Timmy the dog behind. There's no protection for them. So these shelters are mainly designed to protect against the blast of conventional bombs, but they do also offer a degree of protection against nuclear bombs, and they have the filtration systems so they even protect against biological weapons, chemical weapons and so on. But they also work in peacetime as a way to protect the citizens from accidents, maybe like a fire or something like the Chernobyl power plant that spread a lot of radioactive chemicals throughout the air. And the citizens are advised to go into these bomb shelters with an air raid siren, and I'll tell you all about that right now, because this is also an incredible infrastructure that we have here in Sweden. Another thing that amazes me about Sweden is they have an operational network of air raid sirens. You can see one on the roof of the building over here. So that's what would make a really incredibly loud noise if there was any danger and that you needed to go into one of the shelters. And they still test these every Monday. The first Monday of the month is when they'll do a test of these. And I'll show you now exactly what that sounds like. So yes, the first Monday of every month at exactly 3 o'clock. That's what it sounds like. And there's the old Swedish joke that if you are an enemy nation that wants to invade Sweden, then that's the best time to do it. Cut! So we spotted that even this massive car park has some kind of shelter. So maybe this one is open to us. Let's go in and see if we can get access. So I think we found it. It's absolutely massive, but it's a bit too dark and we didn't bring a decent torch, so we can't really see anything in there. But it does look to be one of the bigger ones. We can check on the map actually and see how many people this one accommodates. So that concludes our tour of some of the bomb shelters here in southern Sweden. Hope you found it interesting. Now, you might be wondering, if you're here as a tourist on holiday and there is a bomb threat, then yes, even non-Swedish citizens are entitled to use these bomb shelters. So that might be good to know in an emergency. Thank goodness then that we never actually had to use these shelters. And it just ended up being a massive waste of money, I suppose. But at least these days they make superb cycle storage facilities. Thank you so much for watching the video. I'll see you next time. Cheerio.